I'm sorry, let me get my homework that I'm avoiding off of the screen back here. It's like really distracting. What's up, nerds and virgins? Welcome back, guys. With UFC 245 coming up this weekend, I thought it could be really fun to break down Colby Covington's career and kind of try to understand why he does what he does and how it's changing the format of the UFC. In this video, we're gonna get into Colby's start as a fighter, his personality shift, and how all of this is changing the landscape of sports and entertainment media. Colby Covington debuted in the UFC in 2014 at Fight Night 48. He won his first fight and went on a winning streak in his early career as a UFC fighter, but no one really cared about him. Colby was a really nice guy.
He's a tough guy, and you hit him with some hard shots. How surprised were you that he stood up to a lot of those shots?
Man, that second round, I hit him with a two-piece, and I felt it on my hands. I hit him really hard, and I noticed him wobble. I thought I was going to get the finish by TKO. I was just, I'm surprised he was able to battle through it, but he's a veteran. He's been in a lot of tough fights. He's fought a lot of great fighters. So, I expected a tough, resilient fighter in Mike Powell, and it's a good win. I'm just only getting better from here.
He respected the people that he fought against. He never got involved in any drama or any of the shit talking that really takes place in the UFC, and that was really being popularized in the UFC at this time with the rise of people like Conor McGregor and John Jones and Daniel Cormier's ongoing beef. Colby was definitely performing really well, though. You don't come to the UFC and win 7 out of 8 fights by being a bad fighter, but he's really going under the radar. He's being heavily overshadowed by these other fighters that are causing a huge drama in the UFC, getting headlines written about them, and really garnering a lot of interest for their main card fights. In the fall of 2017, 3 years into Colby's career, he was featured on Impact Wrestling.
Career of walking on, wait a minute, come on!
American top team Colby Covington first.
They were supposed to be ushered off the property.
Colby must have really enjoyed his time acting and wrestling, because soon after this time on Impact Wrestling, he really left his nice guy personality behind, and we all started to see a shift in him. From late 2017 on, Colby's media personality started to warp. He went from being someone who openly said that he didn't want to get involved in drama, to someone who, after his fight with Damian Maia, decided to call Brazil a dump, called Brazilians filthy animals, and went on to demand a shot at the welterweight title.
I should have knocked him out. Brazil, you're a dump. All you filthy animals suck. I got one thing to say. Tyrone Woodley, I'm coming for you. If you don't answer the front door, I'm going to knock it in, and I'm going to take what's mine, that welterweight belt.
Yeah, I'm the king of Brazil. I owe it to the Brazilian fans to go back there and put on a show for them,
He began acting out on media days, seemingly to almost entirely mimic Conor McGregor, down to wearing the exact same outfit sometimes. A cheaper version, but...
I don't notice anything that little midget that got melted by a featherweight does.
There's the right hand.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Oh, he goes. Devastated. I fought this fight sitting at about 30%.
Put it in the U.S.
Shut your bitch ass up. You wasn't tough backstage.
You got 30%, you put 100% of the fans to sleep, motherfucker.
He's talking about us being 20 miles apart. We're 20 miles apart in the rankings and 20 miles apart in skill level. The guy's JV in everything he does. He's a complete joke. His mom dressed him up in bed sheets for the press conference. That's a joke.
People responded to this not positively, but they were talking about him, something that Colby did not really get much of before. And Colby's a good fighter, but he was not a good fight promoter. And at this point, I think Colby really went with the mantra, any publicity is good publicity. Colby then made the very ingenious and controversial move of exploiting the divisive political environment that we have in the United States at this point in time. In 2016, Trump won the election, splitting America in half, it seems. In 2017, Colby came out as a Trump supporter, wearing a Make America Great Again hat everywhere he goes, talking about the Trump train and the Colby train. and saying that a true UFC champion would take the belt to the White House and put it on Donald Trump's desk, and that is what he plans to do when he wins the title. I think this is Colby's greatest and also most shocking thing that he's chosen to do, because much else of what Colby says and does is pretty stupid, and it doesn't really attack the emotions as much as specifically aligning with the president, because most of Colby's insults are very schoolyard. Things like, if you don't like me, you're a nerd and a virgin who is eating Cheetos in their mom's basement.
You already know I'm gonna give RDA a wedgie when he gets to that octagon. I promise I'm gonna pull his underwear over his head in the middle of that UFC octagon. Everybody's gonna be laughing at that little nerd.
They're all Cheeto eating dorks on their frickin' mom's couch, so what do I care about these losers?
Oh, who let you virgins in here? I know all you girlfriends and wives out there are gonna be coming to my page because they want to see what a real man looks like because they ain't getting one at home.
I'm going to take your lunch money and give you a swirly.
You know what I'll do to you, nerd? I'll stick your head in a toilet, take your lunch money, and stuff your in a locker.
He basically, for the most part, seems to act out a role of like an 80s bully in a movie that doesn't use cursing.
Greetings, virgins of Instagram.
He also has women with him all the time, but not like women wearing clothes. I don't want to call them like strippers or prostitutes because I don't think that's the right name, but I'm also pretty sure he pays them to be there.
Out here with the Queens of Chaos. Don't miss it, snowflakes. I'm taking what's rightfully mine, the UFC welterweight title. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Let me just say, it's easier to hop on than it is to hop off. So join the Colby train now.
Colby, can we get in the jacuzzi now?
Yeah, let's get out of here.
He'll never be ready for raw American steel and twisted sex appeal. What's up, ladies? Later, nerds.
And they definitely don't seem like they're even fans of his. For example, in Brendan Schaub's Food Truck Diaries, you can see the two ladies there almost kind of going, when is this gonna be over? Because it's a 45-minute episode, and that's the final edit. Like, they probably hung out for 2 hours in order to have that much footage. So he has ladies.
All I gotta say is I'm coming to Chicago to bang some Midwest freaks and beat up a Brazilian geek.
No one is off limits to him. He's made fun of people who have died, people who have been severely injured in tragic accidents, virgins, nerds, people that don't support Trump. He calls Kamaru Usman, who he is fighting this Saturday, Marty Fake Newsman. He's taken to calling Tyrone Woodley Tyquil Woodley. Like, I don't know if that's like NyQuil, because he puts you to sleep because he's so boring. Like, I don't know what the joke is there. And the Trump thing, he is full force on the Trump thing to the point that the president has tweeted at him that he's the champ and good luck out there tonight and things along those lines. The first family, which I'm pretty sure just Donald Trump's sons-in-law, came to his fight and came down and said good job afterwards and then put him on the phone with Donald Trump. And he got to go to the White House and put the belt down. Instead of just having a MAGA hat on, he has a signed by Donald Trump MAGA hat on. And he wears these cheap blue suits, plus 2 women, not just one. He has to have more than one.
Also, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Colby Covington had beef with Joe Rogan.
Colby Covington, don't snap me. Don't slap me. And you said you're going to slap me? Don't slap me. I was talking shit.
Why is he going to slap you?
Because I was telling him that John Jones might slap him.
Oh,
yeah,
he's going to
like, slap you? I like Colby. I like what he's doing. He's talking a lot of shit. I'm just saying, be careful who you talk shit to.
Basically, Colby's entire personality is in itself, can't believe I'm gonna say this, fake news. I mean, just watch any of the clips that I just showed of him and his trash talk. It is so poorly delivered that anyone who falls for it as his true personality is dumb. That's what it is. It's a personality that he created to sell fights. And it's working. Colby gets people to tune in for a couple of reasons. They want to watch him just get beaten to a pulp and lose super hard. They want to watch him because they also like Trump and want to see the snowflakes get triggered. Or they're like, this is hilarious. I'm tuning in to this weird entertainment sport combo. In the time that he is in the octagon, he is a really good fighter. I mean, like I said, he didn't get into the UFC being a nice person for no reason. They didn't let him in because he was nice. They let him in because he's a good fighter. And now he has taken this mixture of good technique with interesting personality traits that he can sell, because the UFC already had the cocky Irishman. They already had the the coke addict. Okay. They already had the coke addict who hits pregnant women with their cars. I'm sorry. They already had the fried chicken fan. The UFC has a multitude of personalities, as I covered in my other video about it, but they never really had a super villain, because all these people that I just mentioned usually had majority fans. Conor McGregor is probably the closest to a villain because people find him very overconfident, I guess. He's pretty aggressive in the personality department for sure. Colby Covington seemingly did Impact Wrestling once and went, I'm gonna be the heel of the UFC. Win or lose, he's getting booed, but they still paid to be there. Which brings me to the next section of this video, which is how the concept of Colby Covington being a heel and being a supervillain of a sport has the potential to change the UFC as a fight promotion company and mixed martial arts as a sport. MMA has always been separate from WWE. WWE is full-on fake. The fights aren't real. It's scripted. They have heels because they wrote that. They meant for that to happen. The UFC started out just people fighting, and then people won or they lost. That's kind of it. And then slowly but surely, people got involved in the drama of it because people love drama. Okay? There's a reason that in YouTube Rewind we saw that one of the most liked videos was James Charles's No More Lies. It's because people freaking love drama and we want to watch it. And while the type of person who watches the UFC, which your average person who watches it is a macho man who will claim to not care about drama, totally does, because there's something about it that is so different from our everyday lives that we are obsessed with it and we want to know what's going to happen, whether or not we're emotionally invested. We've seen it a little bit. Conor McGregor, I don't want to give him credit for everything in the UFC, but he changed the landscape of the UFC. Of the top 5 UFC pay-per-views sold, guess how many of them are Conor McGregor fights? It's all of them. All 5 are McGregor fights. Conor McGregor came in and was like, I'm gonna throw a dolly through a bus window. I'm gonna punch old men in the face and you're still gonna like me. And he's not wrong. People that didn't watch the UFC and probably never would have watched the UFC watch the UFC now. But a lot of people still really liked Conor and they could enjoy him without him getting boos only. There were a lot of cheers. You know, Irish fans do not tend to be very quiet or respectful. People still like Conor McGregor. He is not booed by the masses when he enters the arena. But you know who is? Donald Trump. And you know who else is? Colby Covington. He walks out there and people go nuts in the worst kind of way. They hate him. They want to see him lose. And then he doesn't lose, and it brings in more people for next time to see him lose next time, because all he does is talk more and more crap, however poorly delivered I may deem it to be, and he destroys the competition, to be quite honest. So, how is Colby Covington's role as a heel going to change the UFC? I think it really depends. If being hated and being a supervillain of the UFC, which I believe he is now self-proclaimed as his role, if that continues to be highly profitable and a frankly smart business decision, I think we could see the UFC continue to steer into this having a storyline for every major fight that happens. Because the UFC has a YouTube channel where they put out episodes prior to every big main fight card. And I watched the opening episode for this fight card, and it is Colby Covington swimming around with his model friends, and then it's Kamaru Usman hanging out with his mom and his daughters, and Kamaru saying things Like, I can't believe his family lets him talk like that. And I can't lie, I have never been more excited for a fight. I don't know who to root for. The almost comedic relief of Colby Covington, who takes his job seriously but simultaneously is a joke, and Kamaru Usman, who has two really cute little daughters, and he's the first African with a UFC title. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's his, like, you know, the first to ever do something type of thing. I think if this continues to be really popular, which it really seems to be, at least for myself as a woman, because I kind of have to care about the people in order to care about the sport, do I think that the UFC will ever go so far as to WWE territory where it writes these storylines on purpose? I hope not. That is corny. But Colby being dramatic himself and not necessarily at the direction of his higher-ups like Dana. I don't think Dana White planned this for Colby Covington. I think Colby put it together himself. As much as I think Dana White is stupid for not wearing a nice shirt to work, it still makes me angry every day of my life. I think that he is really good leadership for the UFC, and I think he knows what he's doing. I think he knows how to make money, and they're gonna do what they can to make their sport interesting enough for people to watch. But I think they absolutely need to maintain that once the clock starts for the fight, it is 100% real talent and skill, and it's just them. They are not being interrupted by any, like, okay, now you're gonna hit him with a chair and you're gonna do a backflip. None of that. The scriptedness will stay over in the WWE or the Impact Wrestling or these other non-real fight sports. Does that make sense? Colby Covington has 100% become the supervillain of the UFC in a pretty cheesy way. I think it is pretty obvious to most people that this isn't real. But if it's making the UFC money and it's drawing in eyes and dollars, there's really no harm to it. And if anything, there's a lot of positive because it raises the stakes for the fighters who want to make more money, for the production company, for the UFC because they want to make more money, and for us as viewers because we get emotion involved, we have a side that we're really rooting for. Changes the UFC from a casual, like, I'm gonna turn this on because I like fighting, to I want to watch this person beat the ever-living shit out of this person, or vice versa. So I'm excited to see what happens this weekend. Colby and Kamaru, and also Dana White. If you're hiring, I'm a sports nutrition student, hit me up. Dana, put on a collared shirt. Like, that's all I want for you. It's like a nice, like, don't wear jeans and sneakers and a collared shirt. Like, is that so much to ask? I guess because you're the president of the UFC and you can do whatever you want. Thank you, viewer, so much for watching. Please subscribe. Anyway, I will see you next time. And by next time, I mean 2 days from now because it's still Vlogmas. Nerds and virgins eating Cheetos in your mom's basement.